taking over my country. Why won't anybody help?
What do you mean nobody is helping you? Haven't the USA given you billions of dollars every single year and are still sending more with the recent bills that passed? On top of that, every country has given you full support since 1948. You know, the year where just the colonizers changed for the Palestinians. I guess you weren't crying for the past 75 years where Palestinians were and are still being killed. Go buy some tissues and leave them alone.
All right. So there's a lot. I mean, how many seconds was that? That was 30 seconds, 27 seconds. And I could spend 1 hour talking about how stupid this comment was, right? But isn't Palestine like one of the most aided countries in the world? Yeah, it is. Okay, so I don't know why a lot of people. Yeah, it is. Palestine is one of the countries that receives the highest amount of aid in the world. So okay, so here's the thing. So she is. There's a lady at the beginning that is nervous about her country's existence, the fact that they're being attacked, and this lady is responding to it by being nitpicky. So let's see what the first commentator is saying, right? So first of all, when somebody is in an emotional state, and she has every right to be, if she is an Israeli and she feels under attack, I mean, if you're Jewish, if you're Israeli, and you feel that the world is against you, you have every right to feel that way, because I know Israel has its allies. I know Israel receives a lot of support from a couple of countries. The good thing is those are superpowers. However, when you look at the attitude of people around the world, if you feel hated, if you feel like Israel is also the only country in the world where this many people around the world think that it should not exist and it should be annihilated, right? And also the trends in the United States and Europe seem to be, with the younger generation, seems to be going against Israel. So, and a lot of these countries, the countries that support Israel, are democratic countries. So if the voter base changes and the views changes against Israel in the future, that support for Israel might not be there. There is also a deep-rooted hatred against Jewish people all around the world. On October 7th, you saw what happened to Israel, and you saw how quickly views turned against Israel right after October 7th, after the greatest attack on Israel and the greatest attack on Jews since World War II. People went from half a day of feeling sorry for Israel to all of a sudden being completely anti-Israel again after the greatest massacre on Israelis and Jews in history after World War II, and actually on Israel's ever, because back then there was no Israel. This is the greatest attack on Israel in the history of Israel. And people became not only more supportive, this was a time that you could see that, okay, we now see why we need Israel. We now see why we have to defend Israel. But not only that, not only people didn't see that, people are now more anti-Israeli than ever before. So it completely makes sense. I mean, I'm not going to be nitpicky about when you say, why won't anybody help us? Like, well, technically, some people are helping you. But really, you want to be nitpicky about the language of somebody that feels alone, isolated, attacked, and also feeling like their country could not exist at some point, given the trends of everything going. I mean, you are a country, she lives in a country where every single neighbor has millions and millions of people in it, and also their neighbors have millions of people that would love to see. There's nothing that they would love to see more than the complete destruction of her country. So yeah, I feel like you want to be like, okay, why won't anybody, like at the time that she's nervous and crying? I mean, I don't know the entire context of this, what she's saying. Maybe if I see the entire context, it would be my take would be different. But that's what you're showing us. So I'm just judging based on, even if my judgment is wrong, I'm just judging it by what she chose, the few seconds that she chose to show us, because that's the take that she wants us to have, that this is an Israeli that feels like nobody is helping her, right? Like, are you serious? Like, imagine somebody being that emotional about her being alone, and you want to be nitpicky about the language. That doesn't seem like the right time. She obviously feels alone, and I mean, look at the history of Jews throughout history. No other group of people have been this hated and this isolated and this much attacked in the history of the world. In the history of the world, consistently, one generation after the other one empire after the other one. It's independent from geography and time and culture. Hatred of Jews is above culture, it's above time, and it's above geography. Seems to be like something that unites the world, apparently, right? How, and imagine her generation being told about the global hatred against the Jews. A lot of them did not believe that. A lot of them, it's hard to imagine that. It's hard to imagine that level of hatred against the Jews. Like, I know a lot of Jewish Americans that were like, yeah, maybe back then people hated Jews this much, but not now. I mean, that was like, yeah, back then, like, oh yeah, we heard about the Holocaust and World War II, and yeah, but there's still some anti-Jewish hatred, but not that much, obviously. And now this generation of Jews have woken up to be like, oh no, it's still there. It's pretty strong. When Hamas attacked Israel, it didn't even take for Israel to respond to Gaza for people to come out with Palestinian flags and chant against Israel. Chanting stuff that I can't even say on YouTube. Stuff that has to do with gas. Okay, I'm not going to say the whole thing. YouTube is probably very unfriendly to this channel, so I don't know what's going to happen to us if I say that. But you know what I'm talking about, right? There were protests against Israel after October 7th, before Israel even started responding in Gaza. After the greatest attack on Israel, after the greatest number of slaughter of Jewish people in history after World War II, there were anti-Israeli protests not just in Islamic countries, but in Western liberal countries. So yeah, this generation of Jews is like, okay, yeah, I see what my grandparents were telling me, and this still is still alive. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. So excuse me for feeling nervous. Excuse me if I now understand why it's important to defend Israel as a country. And what is her response? Let's listen to her response.
Start taking over my country. Why would anybody help?
What do you mean nobody is helping you? Haven't the USA given you billions of dollars every single year?
United States gives Israel and Palestine billions of dollars every year, lady. Okay? Mention that. Also, the money United States gives to Israel every year helps Palestinians more than Israelis. Do you guys know why? That is in support of Palestinian lives, to support Israel's right to defend itself and its ability to defend itself, is to also support Palestinians. Do you guys understand why? Do you understand, for every Israeli that gets killed, Israel requires to respond to show its deterrent capabilities, to be able to do its duty to its own citizens? And for every Israeli that dies, more Palestinians will die. Do you understand that those rockets that are coming to Tel Aviv, when the United States give Israel the capability to shoot them in the sky, they're saving more Palestinian lives every time one of those missiles doesn't land in Tel Aviv than Israeli lives? Every Israeli that gets to live, for every Israeli that gets to live because those rockets didn't hit them, 10 Palestinians get to live. Because if that Israeli had died, Israel would require to retaliate and Palestinians would die. You should want, for the sake of Palestinians, for Israel to be able to defend itself effectively. Do you understand that? Do you guys understand how important it is for Palestinians, for Israel to be able to defend itself? And do you understand how major of a betrayal to Palestinians is for the people who are celebrating or encouraging Hamas attacking Israel, because that ends up, every time that gets more Palestinians killed. These people, they have blood on their hands. These people, these are the reasons why Palestinians are dying. It's not the IDF. It's not the IDF. IDF is doing its duty. IDF is doing what it's supposed to do as a military. Largely, I know, I'm pretty sure there are some mistakes there. I'm pretty sure that there are bad actors in IDF, like there is in any army in the world. I'm sure we will, if proper if instead of just like blanket accusations against the entire military, if we did proper investigations, we will be able to find examples of wrongdoing, like we'll find in every goddamn military, right? But as a general, the policies of IDF and the methodology of IDF is better than any military in the world. Any military in the world. The standards, no other country can meet IDF. With all the criticism that we could have for IDF, no other military on the planet, no other military ever on the planet has done more than the IDF to try to reduce civilian casualties. So yeah, if any army deserves support, it's the IDF. It's doing a just war in Gaza. It's defending a country that needs defending probably more than any other country in the goddamn world right now. And when you support its military, you're supporting not just Israeli lives, but also Palestinian lives. So what are you complaining about? She's crying because she's under attack. She's crying because she doesn't know if she's going to have a country. She's crying because the world seems to be against her. And you're complaining about the fact that they're getting aid. They should get more aid. Israel should get more aid.
And are still sending more with the recent bills that passed. On top of that, every country has given you full support since 1948. You know, the year where just the colonizers changed for the Palestinians. I guess you weren't crying for the past 75 years where Palestinians were and are still being killed. Go buy some tissues and leave them alone.
Yeah, if you care about Palestine, go buy some tissues and leave them alone. How can they leave them alone? They were attacked. Should they leave them alone after they get genocided? Leave them, go buy some tissues and leave them alone. Leave the Palestinians. What do you mean leave them alone? You mean don't respond? When you say leave them alone, you're basically saying Jews, the only thing Jews can do for people like this to be happy is just to take it. It's just to die. There's nothing else they can do for them to be happy. How could you leave them alone? Your country was just attacked. You obviously have to respond. You obviously have to respond. Leave them alone? How is this standard not applied to any other country in the world? Why Israel should leave them alone once they're attacked, but other countries get to respond? Where is the double standard? What the hell are you talking about? Leave them alone? Do other countries leave them alone when they get attacked? Which country are you from, lady? Do you expect your government to leave the country that attacked you alone after you get attacked? What is the standard that you guys have? Any response by Jews are going to be seen as a hate crime. The only thing that Jews can do for the people to be satisfied is to die and just take it. Again, YouTube, not my position. This is what I'm responding to.